Uber drivers and Lyft drivers, there's something I want to talk about today that kind of hits close to home for me, and that is security and safety as a Uber driver or Lyft driver, rideshare driver, whatever it is that you are driving, DoorDash, whatever, and that is your safety and security. For me, it hits close to home because 2 years ago, I was robbed at gunpoint, and all they took was my cell phone, of all things. But it was a pain in the ass because it was right around Christmas time and I couldn't get a new phone because they were all sold out. So anyway, let's take a second to talk about, safety and security, and we'll focus, or I will focus, on Uber and Lyft because that's what I do. I don't do DoorDash. I draw the line at taking people their food. That's not to say that, if you do that it's not a big deal. But I draw the line there. So anyway, there's one of those annoying match ride requests. So anyway, safety and security. Personally, my opinion, Uber and Lyft, they both fall short of trying to, provide safety and security to their drivers. The first thing that comes to mind is the fact that they require us to have a background check, the driver, but they do not require the passengers to have a background check. That is... All right, so where were we? Anyway, I got interrupted by one of their horrible ride offers, a comfort ride going 26 miles for $23. That's an Uber X price, if you ask me. But anyway, let's get back to talking about safety and security with Uber and Lyft being a driver. They make us go through, these so-called background checks, but they don't require passengers to go through it. I think at the very least, they should put on there and mark, instead of marked verified, mark security checked or whatever it may be. I don't know what the solution is. I'm sure the smart people at Uber and Lyft could come up with something. But so far, they have not. We have the verified marking for Uber. Honestly, I don't even recall if Lyft has something similar or not. Maybe they do, I don't know. But I think that falls far shy. And honestly, when I was robbed, I was not robbed by a Uber or Lyft passenger. I dropped off in a major city near me, was coming out, and realized I needed to get gas, stopped at a gas station, which was very well lit and was actually very crowded. Almost every pump was filled up, and some guys drove up, jumped out of the car, and stuck a gun in my face and took my phone. So that's that story. But what can you do? Let's talk about what you can do as a driver, especially if you're new. If you've been out here a while and you know the ropes, you kind of already figured out what you can do and to help keep yourself safe. Nothing is guaranteed, but things you can do as a new driver. First off, pay very close attention to these passengers, what their ratings are. Just because somebody has a low rating doesn't mean they're necessarily dangerous or going to be a problem. But there's so many reasons that people get the low ratings. But honestly, I feel like passengers with below like a 4.9, generally, they're a problem. They're usually late. They make you sit out there for a while, which you're not really paid for. The amount of money they give you at the end of the day for waiting is just, what is it, 10 cents a minute, I think? And that may be different for different markets. I don't know. But you've really got to pay attention to the neighborhood. And the most important thing you can do when you're driving, if you have a sketchy feeling about a neighborhood, a passenger, trust your gut. You can always cancel a ride. There's no amount of money that Uber or Lyft can offer you that's worth your life, worth your safety. They just can't do it. I don't care what kind of prices they offer. So trust your gut. That's the most important thing. You generally know the area that you're driving in, and avoid those neighborhoods or areas that you know have a history of being dangerous. Just don't take those rides. And don't be afraid to cancel a ride. I hate to say it, but don't be afraid to cancel a ride. If you don't know the neighborhood, you don't know the area, and you get there and you decide, wait a minute, this is just a little sketchy. Seems like a bad part of town, or whatever the reason may be. Cancel it. You can always text the passenger and say, hey, look, I don't feel safe in this neighborhood. I don't feel safe in this area. Something came up. Unfortunately, I have to cancel a ride. Uber or Lyft will get you another driver. Have a great night. Have a great day, whatever it is. I think that at the end of the day, one of the more important things that you can do to help keep yourself safe is drive in the areas that you know. Uber and Lyft are famous for trying to send drivers far away. And here in the market that I drive in, those rides, the longer the ride is, the less money you make per mile. So they're really not worth driving anyway. You don't want to take a ride from one city to another, and you don't know the city that the passenger is going to, and drive around down there. You don't know the bad areas. You don't know the areas that are, for a lack of a better term, safe or safer than other areas. And it's silly to think that you're going to drive around wherever you go and you don't know the area. It's ridiculous. So I would say my advice to you is to drive the areas that you know, keep track of where you're driving, and make sure you're not in a bad area. Number two, and most importantly, right after that, is to get a dash cam video. Okay? Get a dash cam video, and get one that records outside and in. At the end of the day, you want that evidence, for lack of a better term, because if something does happen, you're going to be arguing with Uber and Lyft over who was at fault. So you want that. And, God forbid you're unable to tell people what happened, the police, whoever. You want that dash cam video so that they can figure out what happened. So definitely go and get yourself a nice dash cam video. Invest the money. You can get them off of Amazon for fairly inexpensive. And make sure you download any questionable, situations that you run into when you're driving for Uber and Lyft. Because you never know. I mean, a month might go by, and all of a sudden you get kicked off the platform. You get some kind of email from Uber and Lyft saying, hey, you did X, Y, and Z, or you get accused of something. You can go back and say, hey, wait a minute, what was the ride? What was the date? And you can download that video, or you can produce that video and send it to Uber or Lyft and say, that's not how it happened. You might want to take another look at this, and you can hopefully get back on the platform if that's what you want to do, if you're kicked off. All right, so that being said, drive the areas that you know well. Stay away from areas that you do not know. Trust your gut, and get a dash cam video. Now, get out there and start driving and start making some money. Y'all have a great day.